This is the video for the intervention and the reteaching on solving equations with distributing and variables on both sides. Again, if you need more instruction on these, you can get full explanations by going to the class website, tinyurl.com/mathlaws or Elkridge Math, and click on Unit 3. This is the stuff we're going to be covering, 3.4 and 3.5. You can see that we've got some notes here. We've got some longer videos that explain all the rationale behind each one of these, and then a worksheet on each one of these topics. So I'm going to pull this up right here, and we're just going to go ahead and get to it. Remember, when we're solving these, we want to make sure that we show all the work, and we want to make sure that we simplify each side, then solve. There's no sense in solving a really complicated equation if we can simplify the sides and then solve. So please keep that in mind. Please make sure you're showing your work here. I'm going to make sure that I show that I'm distributing there. This front side is all distributing, so this is going to be negative 4 times 5b. That's negative 20b. Negative 4 times negative 3 is positive 12. And then on the other side, we have a negative 28. So we're going to go ahead and isolate this variable term right here, just like we talked about before. I'll go ahead and do this one on a couple of these. We want to get rid of adding 12, so we're going to subtract 12 from both sides. Those are going to cancel each other off, so that leaves negative 20b on this side, and negative 28 minus 12, that's going to be negative 40. Remember, same sign, find the sum, keep the same sign. Then we're going to divide by negative 20 on both sides. Those are going to cancel, so we get b equals, and negative divided by a negative is a positive, and 40 divided by 20 is 2. There's our answer on that one. Again, showing the distributing by drawing those lines right there, we get 14 on this side. I've now simplified this side by writing a 2 and a negative 6n. I'm going to go ahead and solve this, again, isolating this term right here. So I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides, so that's a 12 on this side. That's a negative 6n over here. Again, remember, that is multiplication, so we're going to divide both sides by negative 6. Those are going to cancel, so I'm going to have an n on this side, and a 12 divided by a negative 6 is a negative 2. Again, there's no problem in having the variable on this side. Whichever side the variable ends up on, we're just going to go ahead and leave it there. So we'll take a look at number 3 and 4 here. Again, showing the distributing here. So I've got 18, and then simplified over here, I get negative 12k, and then I get a plus 6. I'm going to solve this and isolate that variable term right here by subtracting 6 from both sides. That's a 12 equals negative 12k. We want to get the k all by itself, so all we're going to do is we're just going to divide by negative 12. There are times where people will say, oh, I'm going to divide by negative 12k. We like the k on that side. We want to leave it there. So when those cancel, we have a k on this side, and we have 12 divided by negative 12. That's going to be negative 1. We'll go ahead and circle that. Distributing through, again, showing that work that shows that we're simplifying this side over here. We get a 66 on that side. We're going to go ahead and isolate that variable term there by subtracting 18. So let's see, we have 18 minus 18 on that side, so that's a 0. So we have just our 6x, which is what we wanted. We wanted to isolate that. And then we have, let's see, 66 minus 18. 66, if it was minus 16, that would put us at 50. It's a minus 18, so that's going to put us at 48. And then we're going to go ahead and finish this off by dividing by 6, so we get x equals 8. Okay, 6 is cancel, 48 divided by 6 is 8. Again, showing all the work here, we're going to distribute. That's a 2 minus 10b equals negative, what have we got here, negative 38 over there. We're going to move this to the other side by subtracting 2. Again, that's a positive 2 right here. It's understood to be a positive 2. So we get negative 10b here. And then we've got same sign, find the sum, keep the same sign. So that's going to be a negative 40. And then we're going to divide both sides by negative 10. Whoops, make that look right there. And then those are going to cancel. We get a b on this side, and then negative divided by negative is positive. 40 divided by 10 is 4. Go ahead and circle that answer. Again, continuing to show the work. So 12x. This would be 30 when we multiply. I need to move that 30 to the other side, so I'm going to subtract 30 from both sides. We get a 12x over here, and then take a look at what we get here. Again, these have the same sign, so we're going to add the numbers together. That's a 48, and we keep the same sign. That's like owing $18 to somebody and owing 30 to somebody else. Altogether, we owe 48. We're going to get rid of multiplying by 12 by dividing by 12. Those are going to cancel, and we end up with negative 4. And hopefully that's a relatively easy problem. We should know that from our times tables. We'll slide down here, and again, continuing with this, continuing with this, continuing with this. We just do this on each one. Every time we see a set of parentheses, we're going to distribute that through to simplify. So we get 10 minus 8n equals 34. On this one, we'd get 6 equals negative 15p plus 21. On this one, we get 2 plus 4b equals 38. And on this one, we get negative 40x minus 8 equals 72. Now again, what we're relying on here is our ability to quickly recall the fact that 2 times 5 is 10, 2 times negative 4 is negative 8, and of course we've got the n on there. We've got this 3 times negative 5 is a negative 15. Of course, we've got the p on there. And then positive 3 times positive 7 is 21. And then likewise with these other ones here. What we get at this point, every single one of these, they're all structured the same. They are all two-step equations at this point. So we're going to get rid of the 10. So this is going to be, let's see, negative 8n. 34 minus 10 is 24. We're going to divide by that negative 8. Don't forget the negative. Okay, so we get a negative 3 right here. On this one, we're going to move the 21 to the other side. So we're going to do that by subtracting 21. Those cancel each other out. We get a negative 15 on this side, and on this side we have a 15p. Now I've made a typical mistake right here. You'll notice that this was a negative 15p. Lots of times people will slide this down here and they'll forget that negative right there, so please don't. You're going to get the wrong answer if you do that. So we're going to divide both sides by negative 15. Those are going to cancel. Negative 15 divided by negative 15 is a 1, meaning a 1p. We normally just write the p. And then negative divided by negative is positive. 15 divided by 15 is 1. So there's our answer. And then again, continuing here, those cancel. Let's see, that's going to be 36. We're going to divide by 4. So we get a b over here, and 36 divided by 4 is 9. And then let's see what happens on this one. Let's see, these are big numbers. Let's hope this takes care of itself. Those are going to cancel. We get negative 40x over here, and then we get 80 out of the two of these. This makes us feel pretty good once we get to here because we can see that that 40 is going to go into 80 evenly. 80 divided by 40 is 2, but don't forget we've got a positive divided by a negative, so that's going to be a negative 2. So let's take a look at the other side. You'll notice that on this other side the problems are different. Okay, we've got variables on both sides, and you'll notice I don't see any parentheses on this side yet. If you've got variables on both sides, you've got to make sure that you remember this. We cannot combine like terms until we get them on the same side. So what we've got to do first is we've got to move the variable. Now, if we take a look at this one right here, we can either move the negative 8k or the positive 7k. Normally, it's a good idea to move the smallest one, the one that's most negative. That would be this one right here. So we're going to move the negative 8k. Now, please don't start moving the numbers. Don't move the constant 14 or the constant negative 1 until you know which side the variable is going to end up on. That's going to make it a lot easier. It really doesn't matter if we move the negative 8k or the 7k. It doesn't matter over here whether we move the negative 2x or the negative 6x. That doesn't make any difference. It is better to move the smallest one, the one that's most negative, because we end up working with fewer negatives. We have more positive numbers, and we tend to make fewer mistakes with positive numbers. So here's the idea. On this one, if we had a choice between moving a negative 8k or a 7k, notice we're just ignoring the 1 and the 14. We don't even care about those numbers yet. What we're going to do is we're going to move the smallest one, the one that's most negative. Well, that's this one. So I'm going to add 8k here, and I'm going to add 8k here. Some people will put these together and they'll say, oh, that's just a negative k. It's not. We can't combine them until they're on the same side. So these cancel each other out to make a 0. So that's a negative 1. Then I've got a 14 here, and if we add those together, this is a 15k. And once we get to here, this should look familiar. This is going to be a one-step equation. So we're going to solve this by subtracting 14 from both sides. We get negative 15 equals 15k. We're going to divide by 15. So those are going to cancel. I'm going to leave the k on this side. I have a negative 15 divided by a positive 15, so that's going to be a negative 1. Circle it, and we're done. So this basically takes about 3 steps to solve here. So out of the negative 6x or the negative 2x, I'm going to move the smallest one, the one that's most negative. So I'm going to add 6x here and 6x here. Again, I've got to get them on the same side before I start solving this. So those will cancel. I get a 2 on this side. Don't forget that negative, and then this is going to be a plus 4x. Notice that each time we've ended up with a positive coefficient, which is what we want. So I'm going to add a 10. Those are going to cancel. I get a 12 equals 4x. We're going to divide by 4. And notice how important those two-step equation solving skills are. We use these all the time, so we've got to be really good at them. Now, out of the 7a, or that's understood to be a 1a, this one's the smallest. So I'm going to subtract an a from both sides. That's going to give me a 6a here, plus the 13 equals 13 over there. And then again, I've got a two-step equation to solve. So I'm going to subtract 13. Those cancel to be 0, so I get a 6a on this side. Lo and behold, those cancel to be 0. We don't freak out. We can still deal with this. We're going to get the a by itself by dividing by 6. And if you take 0 and chop it up into 6 pieces, you still have 0. So an answer of 0 is totally okay. There's no problem with that. Again, continuing to solve here, I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides because that's the smaller one. I get a 9 on this side, and I get a 5x here, and I get a negative 16. We're going to add the 16 to both sides because we're still isolating that variable term there. So this is 5x on this side, and that adds up to be 25 there. We're going to divide both sides by 5, so we end up with x equals 5. So there's our answer on that one. Let's take a look at 15 and 16. 16 presents an interesting problem. This one shouldn't be too bad, though. Of 5x and x is the smallest one, so I'm just going to subtract x from both sides. That's going to get that on the same side. So those will cancel. This is going to give me, let's see, that's a 4x. 5x minus 1x is 4x. And then this is minus 7 equals 13. We're going to add 7 to both sides. So those will cancel, so we get 4x equals 20, and then we're going to, divide by 4 here. We want to get rid of that multiplying by 4. Divide by 4, so we get x equals 5. Circle that, and there's our answer. Now, on this one's kind of interesting. We only have one constant here. There's just a 16 sitting right there. We've got a variable over here, and we've got a variable over here. Normally, we would move the smallest one, which is this negative x. But if I stop and think about it, if I were to just move this x over there, look what I've got. Those cancel each other out. I've got the number on one side all by itself, and then I get a negative 2x over here. I've isolated the variable term by that. I could move the x over here. That would leave a 0 on this side, and then move the 16 over there, and then I'd still have some dividing to do. It saves me an extra step by doing it this way. If there's only one constant in the problem, move the variables on the other side, basically. So we're going to divide by negative 2, and we end up with negative 8 equals x. Circle that answer. And then we'll take a look at this one. We've got a 6k and a 7k. I'm going to move the 6k. Make that look like a 6k. So negative 9 equals, holy cow, 7k minus 6k would be 1k. That's kind of nice that happens. And then we'll move that to the other side. So we're going to subtract 12. We get a k on this side, and we get negative 21 altogether. Again, that integer arithmetic there, we're combining those together. Owe somebody $9, owe somebody else $12, you would owe 21 altogether. Of these two, the smallest one is this one because it's most negative, so we're going to add 8r. Those will cancel. Negative 2. We've got a 14 here. Better save space for that 1 there. And then this is 16r. I'm going to isolate this variable term right here. Again, if it helps, you can do that. I'm going to subtract 14 from both sides. We get negative 16 over here and 16r over there. Again, that's multiplication, so we're going to divide by 16. And we end up with r equals negative 1. Okay, last two problems here. Now, these are some of the more difficult ones because they involve so many different ideas. Remember, we always want to simplify each side, then solve. We want to simplify first, then we want to solve. So if I take a look at this one, what we basically do is we ignore this stuff over here. So we're going to simplify over here. We're going to do some distributing here. That's a 6 plus a 4m minus an 8m. This is still not simplified because I combine those like terms. So I get a 6 minus 4m. 4m minus 8m would be minus 4m. And then we'll take a look at this other side over here. On this side, the only things that we can do is we can put those together. So just like we put those like terms together to get negative 4m, we're going to put the two of these together. That's going to be negative 15 minus m. So these two, negative 12 minus 3, make a negative 15. And then we've got the minus m right there. I'm going to move the smaller of the two, so I'm going to add 4m. Add 4m to both sides. Those are going to cancel. We get 6 equals negative 15. This is going to be a plus 3m. And then let's see, we've got to isolate this variable term right here, so we're going to add 15. Add 15, we get 21 equals 3m, and then the last thing we do is we get rid of that multiplying by 3 by dividing by 3. So I get m on this side and I get a 7 on that side, and there's our answer. And now we're down to the very last one. So again, I'm going to ignore this side over here. I'm just going to look at that side, and what we need to do here is we need to collect some like terms. They're on the same side, so we can go ahead and collect them. So that's going to be a 3 minus an 8r. Then I'm going to expose this side over here. I'll ignore this side over here now because I've got that one taken care of. I'm still in the simplifying mode here. And those two are like terms. So I've got a 17, and then negative 8r plus 7r would be negative 1r, just negative r. And now here's the equation that we want to solve. I want to get that by itself, so here's what we're going to do. Let's see here. We're going to add 8r, so we add 8r here. Those cancel each other out. We've got a 3, we've got a 17, and let's see, this, remember, is a negative 1r, so that's going to be plus 7r. And then we need to get this r term by itself, the 7r, so we're going to move the 17, so we're going to subtract 17. We get negative 14 over here, we get 7r over there, and then finally we're to the point where we're probably feeling pretty good, because when we divide by 7, we get an r on this side, and then on the other side we get a negative 2, and there's our answer. Again, if you need some more help, please ask for help. Please take a look at the website. You can look at lots of different videos that will show you how to do these different types of problems. Again, what we just went over is everything in 3.4 and 3.5. So it's all this stuff right here. What we're going to do next is we're going to talk about multi-step equations. All right, good luck with this assignment on distributing and variables on both sides.